Heather McDonald has got the juiciest scoop. When you're on the road, when you're on the go, Juicy Scoop is the show to know. She talks Hollywood tales, her real life Mr. Segment serial data and serial sister. You'll be addicted and addicted fast to the #1 tabloid real life podcast. Listen in, listen up. Woo woo. Heather McDonald, Juicy Scoop.
Hello and welcome to Juicy Scoop. Well, I hope you're surviving the heat and having so much fun. I'm having a blast, as you know, as I always do, because I love bringing you the Juicy Scoop. And I want to do it live for you. So go to heathermcdonald.net, get your tickets there. Only go to heathermcdonald.net to go. I want to talk about some of my fall cities, you guys. I'm going to be in Vegas in September. I am going to be on the East Coast, New York City. I will be in Chicago, Minneapolis, Red Bank, New Jersey, Boston with Julie. So many of those dates. All of that is at heathermcdonald.net. So I don't want you to miss out. I want you to get the good tickets. Summer's almost over, you guys. What are you going to be doing for the fall? Get your friends together. Go on your trips. If there's a show that is like, let's make a fun weekend out of it, look at my dates there at heathermcdonald.net and make those plans. And now for a really great interview with a dear friend of mine that is going to teach you to shut the fuck up. If you've got a half day free, Sono Bello will make your summer way better. It's called micro laser fat removal, and it makes fat disappear permanently. What is great is that once a year, Sono Bello invites listeners like Juicy Scoopers to their exclusive summer saving event featuring their best pricing of the year. It's on for limited time and appointments are limited, so you need to hurry. That's sonobello.com/summer. Sonobello, BELLO.com/summer. This episode of Juicy Scoop is brought to you by Booking.com, Booking.yeah, from tranquil villas to action-packed resorts with so many choices across the U.S., you can book whoever you want to be. Guys, as you know, I've been traveling a lot this summer between vacations with my family to doing shows. Sometimes I bring a family member. Sometimes it's strictly just for the comedy. And that's what I really love. What are you waiting for? This summer, you can book whoever you want to be on Booking.com. Booking.yeah. Book today on the site or app. Hello and welcome to Juicy Scoop. I'm excited to share with you an incredible author, but also my friend of, 15, 16 years. We'll get into how we met. But first of all, this is the book and it is doing so well. And you told me about this and I said, well, I don't know about the title, but so far it's working. So it's good that you listen to me. Yeah. It's the Shut the Fuck Up Method. Silence Your Way to the Life of Your Dreams by Jorge Perez. You know, sometimes
that sounds so good when you say it.
You know, so I've always called you Jorge. That's how you're introduced to me, Jorge. But then when I meet other people, mutual friends, they're like, you know my friend George. And I'm like, I don't have any friends named George.
I'm going to recap this whole thing really fast. So basically, I'm from Venezuela. And when all the Jorges moved to Miami, which is where I grew up, they immediately become George. And I think because, you know, the name could have a Jorge thing. And I think there was like a non-spoken rule. All the Jorges were like, we're George. We're George. Yeah. So anyway, so George all my life moved to LA. And then, you know, every once in a while, like, Jorge. And then I'm like, all right, I kid you not. After the whole George Floyd thing happened, all the white people are the ones that all of a sudden were like, you're Jorge. Don't let him call you George. You're Jorge. And I'm like, okay, I'm Jorge. They're like, you're Jorge. And I'm like, all right. So
now I'm Jorge. I'm proud to say that I've always called you Jorge. And probably not really pronouncing it as great as I could.
Yours sounds great.
But I was excited because I am a whore for a really good Hollywood dinner night, and especially if it's a rooftop view type of situation. Yeah. And the first time I ever went to the Soho House was a mutual friend of ours.
But I broke your Soho House cherry?
Yes, because you're a member of the exclusive Soho House, which is really beautiful. We have a couple, and I'm sure you've heard about. I know you have because you guys are Juicy Scoopers. But there's one on Sunset at the top of that building. Yeah. But because it's exclusive, you're not supposed to have cameras out. You're not supposed to. Yeah. You're supposed to be discreet. It's supposed to be where you really can go and you can see Jennifer Aniston and somebody working out the next streaming series. And like, you're not supposed to go up and say, hi, I'm a really big fan. Okay, so.
They revoke your membership. I've seen it. It's funny.
I feel it was the person that we were with's fault that you got a 3-month suspension after that dinner.
Yeah, because we took a picture. And then funny enough, I was like, oh no, we took a picture of a picture. And she was like, George, if I had a nickel. No, basically, you know.
I thought we were also being kind of loud and dramatic.
Yeah, we were. But they didn't tell me for sure it was because of someone. They went under the rule of no pictures, and you know they're not as strict anymore. But yeah, I was suspended.
Yes.
And you know what's so funny? Like she's like, I'm gonna suspend you for 3 months, but I lowered it to 2, and I'm like, and then that's it. She's like, water under the bridge. So I was so ashamed about it at first, but then after a while, I'm like, yeah, I'm like the Soho House rebel. And now every time I see her, because she still works there, she's like, dude, you told everybody. I'm like, hey, it's my badge of honor. I wear it proud.
Yes, and then you took me to the Malibu one, which is fabulous, right next to Nobu.
Beautiful. Yeah, I love the Soho. Man,
now that you guys know, that's the only reason we've remained friends is because you were Soho memberships.
That's why she wants me to take her there, so I take her.
You know, I like doing nice things. No, but you have when I met you, your predominant job at that time was you're representing high-end photographers as an agent.
Yeah, correct.
And so tell us like a little bit about your background and how you found yourself being kind of this self-help author and person.
For sure. Well, I think so this year marks my 20th year anniversary in LA, right? And I think after 20 years here, like you need a lot of self-help. And I'll tell you why. And it kind of goes into our culture, right? In LA, it's like we're a group of very talented people that left our homes, right? To like, I'll show you. You picked on me in high school, I'll show you. So we're brimming with talent, but we're also brimming with frustration, you know, because your friend is the one that got that Netflix deal and she's on the thing. So it is a culture of people that we kind of have to, there's only 2 things that are going to happen in LA, in my opinion. I talk about this in the book. You're either going to succumb to the ego of like frustration of like, this town sucks, I didn't get there, all that stuff. You're going to succumb to that frustration, or you're actually going to evolve from it and realize that you can't take it seriously. I think LA is just an augmentation of reality, of materiality, and of kind of like desire and ambition, you know?
You know, interesting because I just mentioned like a Jennifer Aniston.
Yeah.
And I remember during COVID, like the first part of COVID where everything really stopped. There was nothing you could do, especially in film and television. And she was being interviewed and she was like, now, of course, for someone like Jennifer Aniston, you know, her business not working isn't going to keep her from paying the mortgage.
Right.
So in her particular case, she was like, something effective. I liked it because I wasn't working, but nobody else was, you know, because you are so much like, if you do have any downtime, if you ever want to take a break from your pursuit of something in the Hollywood world and entertainment, you are bombarded with the fact that like, well, wait a minute, even if I don't do stand-up on a weekend and I'm so excited not to do stand-up, I'll look at my phone and I'll see that my friends had a killer night in, whatever, in Phoenix. And it just makes me feel like, oh my God, you know, a little bit, not so much anymore. But there was a time, especially before COVID, where I'd be like, oh, I'm not doing enough, or a little bit of competitiveness and stuff. And you want to tell yourself it doesn't matter, your path is your path. But when you're seeing it everywhere and you are going down Sunset and you're like, oh, my friend, I went to acting class. Hi.
She's on that billboard.
Hi, you're on that bill. Oh, hi. Yeah, you're on the billboard and I'm driving to an audition. Yeah.
You know, I think it was like my first month into LA, and I have the story in the book. I just don't use the names, but I became friends with this celebrity photographer. He was a big deal, and he had a celebrity muse. And I remember that they invited me to this party, and I literally, Heather, I walked in with the both of them. I've never, the host of the party, like, treating us like I was the biggest star in the world. Like, and I'm like, okay, I was like, wow, I can see why it's addicting, you know, when people are just rolling the red carpet and whatever. And then he was like, oh, the party will be here all week. Come back tomorrow, whatever. The next day I come back, but without these 2 celebrities, with non-celebrities, photographers. And like the guy, I was like roadkill. like I even was like, hey, and he was like, like moving me away. And finally, I even grabbed him and he whisked my hand away. And in that moment, like it's like time stopped. I remember that I was like, all my New York friends that kept saying like how LA was so fake and I'm going to hate it. Like it dawned on me. I was like, oh my God, everyone here is so fake and it's all about this. And all of a sudden, in the middle of that, like a download came and it said, and I heard the voice, it was like God, it said, it's not personal. And I'll tell you what that means. When they love you, it's not about you. It's what they think they're getting from you. And when they don't love you, it's not about you either. It's what they think they're not getting from you. So it was never about you. So if you take it that way, you could just enjoy LA and have a blast and not take it personal. And that's been my trick to love LA for 20 years. I feel like I'm the LA publicist. Everywhere I go and I'm like, where are you from, LA? Ooh, it's bad, huh? And I'm like, no, it's great.
Yeah.
We have every season. You can ski, you can go to the desert, 45. And then they're like, oh my God. I mean, I just heard it was so bad. You know, it's like, it's great if you don't take it seriously and personal.
Yeah.
That's my trick. You
And
can steal it.
so we become friends, and I found you so funny because
Because I am.
because you could like imitate our mutual friend, and he loved it too. And so I'm like, oh my God. So we end up being good friends, and keeping in touch all these years.
Yeah.
And that's when you were like telling me that you were doing all these like the
Spiritual stuff.
landmark and the form and these kind of things. And I like that stuff. But also
You can be very
I'm
deep.
a little weary about it too. Like I was kind of like, is next step Scientology? Like how far are you from getting like into these? Because, and I also just think also in this town, you are looking for the thing, which is why Scientology I think is popular too. And I even thought about it for 1 minute. I'm like, I don't know why everyone's being so mean about it. Like if this is how people are getting parts, maybe it'll make me less nervous in an audition. I don't know. So I think people are always looking for something, whether it's, a Christian church or the Hillside or the Catholic Church or the, Kabbalah, to be like, what is it? Or the AA or whatever. I remember people were like, you should go to this AA meeting on Robertson.
You should start drinking bad.
Because they were like, no, because they were like, there's so many agents there and I needed an agent. And at one point I was like, listen, I'm not an alcoholic, but I have juicy stories to tell. And that's actually how I got into juicy stories. As my brother was in a rehab when I was 13, and we'd go every Wednesday into Beverly Hills. Also, we'd go to a beautiful restaurant after. Like my dad would be like, okay, we're going to go visit your brother. Yeah. And he'd get out the Zagat guide and he'd be like, oh, let's go to this Italian. So I was like, my whole summer was going to the rehab meetings, hearing the juicy stories of the LA people. And like, I just remember this one girl was telling her story, and basically she became like, a sex worker at the time.
Yeah.
And my mom was like, that gorgeous girl, she has the face of an angel. Like, and we were just like, and I would listen to these things and I'm like, I kind of liked the juicy stories, but then I was always, so then at the thing, I was like, oh my God, I could go to these AA meetings and I could get stage time. I could practice bits in front of an audience, and I might get an agent.
It's like your Toastmasters, but, a little sauce.
But I didn't do it. But I'm saying you're looking for anything when you're not at your place yet.
Yeah. I think when you're so ambitious, right, and you have that frustration, you're looking for a community. So you're looking for a community that can hear you out, that you could feel relatedness. So I think that LA obviously has a lot of that. And it's weird because since it fosters that kind of isolation, it kind of, the pendulum goes the other way. So it also fosters community. I've always had a sensibility for spirituality. My mom was really into it. Since I was 20, I went to India for a month. And throughout my life, I've been an agent, representing photographers, shooting, whether it's like Brad Pitt or Jennifer Lopez or any of these people. And it's been great, but I think that in the back burner, I've always had my spirituality, whether it was, I did do Landmark, anything that has
to do with... What is
Landmark? So Landmark is a study of ontology, which is being a human being, the study of being a human being, and basically how you dissociate the mind with your thought, like you're like that voice in your head that's going like, I suck, and you isolate it. You go, wait, I don't suck. That's just a voice in my head. So you kind of create that. Okay. You separate. That's kind of what Landmark is. Yeah.
If you've got a half day free, Sono Bello will make your summer way better. It's called micro laser fat removal, and it makes fat disappear permanently. What is great is that once a year, Sono Bello invites listeners like Juicy Scoopers to their exclusive summer saving event featuring their best pricing of the year. It's on for limited time and appointments are limited, so you need to hurry. Sono Bello doctors are masters in micro laser fat removal. Brilliant technique that removes stubborn fat permanently wherever your problem areas, tummy, sides, thighs, arms, or that saggy, loose, jiggly skin. It's all gone in one comfortable visit. It's summer halftime. Still time for a full body reset. Come on, lose the inches and love the best summer ever. And with the Care Credit credit card, you'll enjoy flexible financing and convenient monthly payments subject to credit approval. See website for detail. That's sonobello.com/summer. Sonobello, BELLO.com/summer. This episode of Juicy Scoop is brought to you by Booking.com. Booking.yeah. From tranquil villas to action-packed resorts with so many choices across the U.S., you can book whoever you want to be. Guys, as you know, I've been traveling a lot this summer between vacations with my family to doing shows. Sometimes I bring a family member. Sometimes it's strictly just for the comedy. And that's what I really love because I'll be going to Texas in August. And guess what? It'll make it so easy because Booking.com's wide breadth of places to stay across the U.S. make booking whoever you want to be this summer so easy. So when I go to Houston, Dallas, and Austin, I'm going to be stand-up funny lady traveler. Other times, it's a sexy weekend with a husband. That's right. From hotel suites to one or more romantic villas for a couple's escape, there are so many great choices on Booking.com. What are you waiting for? This summer, you can book whoever you want to be on Booking.com. Booking.yeah. Book today on the site or app. What do you think about, this is a new thing that I've only heard in the last couple years, is someone being like, look, I suffer from imposter syndrome. And that's why I lashed out because I guess, or you say, I think someone has imposter syndrome where they basically find themselves in a position of power or fame or success. And they believe they are not qualified to be there.
Yeah.
And like what that does, like, what would I mean, maybe you're not familiar with this.
I am. I'm very familiar.
Like, what do you think of all of that?
Listen, at the end of the day, Heather, we all have that voice that thinks we're not supposed to be here. Like I have a friend, actually, legit, that he was an actor and he did a scene. He was in a movie with Anthony Hopkins and he goes, I'll never forget one day I went into his dressing room and apparently Anthony Hopkins said, you know, sometimes I just feel like the acting police is going to come here and arrest me. Like someone like that, who's such an incredible actor, is dealing with imposter syndrome. Yeah. So imposter syndrome is something that we all have. Like, I don't care if you're Jeff Bezos or you are anybody else. Like, we all have it. So and I talk about this in the book, actually, it's just like we need to, when we have like a really good meditation practice or we start cultivating shutting up, then it's almost like those thoughts don't have a grip on us that much. So let's say the thought of I'm not good enough hits you at a 10% instead of a 90. You can live with a 10%. Like let's say you're going to go on stage and you have that comedy thing. You go, oh, I don't think I'm going to do that well. But let's say it's like a 10 instead of like a 9. You can deal with a 10. And then guess what? And then you kill it and you go, oh, that was that little voice again. Does that make sense? Yeah. So, but I do think, I mean, it's such a this book is such a rabbit hole that really explains like our brains are actually wired to survive. Our brains are not made to make us happy. You and I and everybody here, we're the descendants of people that had to do like some crazy stuff to get to this country. We didn't leave Europe because it was a little chilly. So imagine, so you're dealing with genetically, like you're the genetics of people that had to steal, kill, or something. So now you're here. You're not fighting anyone. No one's trying to kill you. But the new enemy is the girl that's going to get your audition job. Amazon Prime is coming in late. You know what I mean? Like we're built into attack to survive, but there's nothing to really survive. So the work, in my opinion, is how do we lower down our survival instincts so we're not stressing ourselves out? We haven't talked about this, but the reason I created this book is because both my parents died of cancer back to back. My dad was leukemia in 2019. I was a stem cell donor. My mom, 2022, breast cancer had metastasized. I took a deep dive on epigenetics, which is a study of how we as people metabolize our environment, how we metabolize stress. And there's studies about this. You can look it up. Most people are living 70% of their lives on fight or flight in stress. That's not sustainable for the human body. The body is almost like telling you like, hey, I can't do this anymore. So when you know how you see like these epidemics of ALS or MS or Parkinson's, that's actually, I've talked to so many of these people and they all pretty much remember something that happened emotionally that detonated it.
And then shortly after they were diagnosed.
Yes, shortly after they were diagnosed.
Wow.
These are neurological diseases. I used to look at people in wheelchairs and in my mind be like, oh, he got into an accident or she was born that way. I was with this guy. I do a lot of retreats with Dr. Joe Dispenza, who's my biggest mentor. And his retreats are these meditation retreats where you actually go into the brain and you rewire the subconscious mind, so you stop the patterns. But a lot of people that have MS or ALS I was with this guy that had ALS, which is, if you guys don't know, it's a disease, a neurological disease that stops your motor skills, right? You all of a sudden you can't walk. The guy is a year older than me, a dancer, a Broadway dancer. 2 years ago, he wakes up and he's like, well, I can't walk. Now he's paralyzed.
Wow.
And I asked him, we spent a lot of time together because I'm in the medical team there and I help people out. And I'm like, do you think this was something emotional? He goes, I know exactly what this was. So he's like, every time I had problems, I would go and tell so many people that then I would have to manage conversations about those problems. So imagine when we tell more than one person or two or three our problems, then it's like, imagine you solve it, but then you have Betty to answer to. That's still going to be, Heather, so what happened with your husband? And that.
That's really interesting.
And imagine if you sorted it out and all of a sudden that scab gets picked again. And you're like, oh, so now you're driving your cortisol levels again. And you're like, I don't know. And then she's like, I don't know if you should give him a chance. I mean, with the hypothetical, I don't know if you should forgive him for that. And you're like, I don't know. Then all of a sudden the thought again comes. Then you call your sister again. So I just talked to Becky and she thinks that I shouldn't forgive him. What I was going to tell you that too, Heather. I don't think you should forgive. You know what I mean? Like we start creating networks of conversations of our problems. And before we know it, the problem that could have been solved with you just either telling your therapist or one person and saying we're done, now you have a whole ecosystem to deal with.
Yeah, I think that is, I mean, I've said that in, the past couple of years or whatever, because I wasn't, in friendships and stuff that have been around forever. And we would share so much with each other. And one of the friendships was like someone I talked to like every day. And one day we just both kind of like stopped, talked like, and it was COVID. And
you both got the perfect out.
and I really was like, I was kind of sad about it, but I was like, I think that we might both be better off. Like, I wasn't like, you're the worst and I was a queen. I was like, I think that for all those years, it was almost like this relationship where if something did happen, I would almost feel obligated to share with the other. And then I don't know how many other people we were sharing their stuff with, because that's what happens with women. Then you get together and there's like a great scene in, did you ever see the movie Wine Country with like all the girls? Uh-huh. I loved that. Tina Fey, I think, was one of the writers. But I was like, when they all get together, this group of girls that like waitress together, they're celebrating someone's 50th. And then two of them get alone and they're like, I think so-and-so's marriage is on the rocks. And there's nothing wrong with that. But that is how we operate. And it is out of love and it's caring. And it's why we like Housewives and stuff like that, because we're watching it.
Yeah.
We're watching it and hopefully not living it. But then I've also talked about that with Dr. Drew of why so many marriages break up in reality TV is because they have these arguments on TV. And then 6 months later, they have to relive it, which is kind of what you're saying. They have to watch it. They have to hear all the people, not just three friends.
No,
they have to hear all the people saying like, your husband's the worst, or you're a bitch, or you were wrong. And that is the risk, I think, of being on these shows that at one time were just about, when OC started, it was just, we're going to follow these ladies that live behind gates. Mm-hmm. Nobody had lashes or lips or anything. And, And then they realized, oh, what really works is when Tamara threw wine at the one lady's face, and when Teresa flipped the thing, and so now it has to be about arguments.
And you know why?
Yeah, why?
Okay, so the mind, right? Like we're wired to survive. So when we naturally, and we gravitate towards bad news. So we can't blame CNN or Fox News or anything, or watching the housewives like beating each other up, because in a very primal way, we gravitate towards bad news, because if our mind tells us if we know where the problem is, then we're going to be safe. Mm-hmm. So our fight or flight like instinctively gravitates to bad news, because I'll know what's going on in Gaza. But here's the kicker, and I talk about this. The fight or flight, there's nothing wrong with fight or flight, by the way. Fight or flight is great if there's a dinosaur chasing you. Your brain goes on beta, your immune system drops, and then you run, right? And you know that feeling of, and then all of a sudden, dinosaur disappears, you go back to grazing, your immune system goes back up, you go back, your brain stabilizes. But the problem is, by we going to those, by us watching CNN, right? A 24 cycle, or watching these dramas that are constantly spiking our cortisol, our hormones, our cortisol levels, we're also in stress. It's almost like we're going through it, but we're not. And then that built-in alarm system that was supposed to just be there for a little while so you can be on high alert is actually the same alarm system that's there to help us. It's actually killing us. And I think that's like insane. The way, because we very innocently, we gravitate towards these conversations of stress, and then we're perpetuating and making the stress even bigger and bigger. And then our body, we're like addicts. We're like emotional addicts. Our bodies, we attract situations. We don't attract what we want.
Yes. But I also kind of feel like, there's so much that's always like, well, we got to have a conversation about this. We have to talk about this, whatever. Yeah. And I had a joke in my act a couple of years ago or whatever that I would talk about, maybe the way you stay married sometimes is just to like wake up and serve some, denial eggs and coffee and move the fuck along. Like sometimes, maybe it's just not worth it to like dissect what the fuck happened, What do you think about that?
I 100% agree. So you know what? This is actually very scientific. Are you familiar with the whole quantum field? Like the movie Everything Everywhere All at Once. Did you see that?
No, I didn't see it, but I like my kids saw it. I found it to be really not my vibe. Like I want to watch remakes of like Unfaithful and Fatal Attraction, but I'm going to explain it.
Explain. Okay, so consider this. Consider that we as the observers, right? Heather McDonald, the observer. You observe something. So let's say it's floating and you go, Maria's a bitch. You observe it. And then you tell me, you know what? I think Maria's a bitch. By you calling it out, it's almost like you lock in the particle. So then she has to start appearing that way to you. So observation, believe it or not, is actually a very active thing. We need to observe things into what we want them to be. Not just like, there's a chapter called We're Not Reporters. Like, we're not like, here I am in my shitty house with my shitty wife and my shitty, like the more that we observe these things and talk about our problems, the more that energetically they're going to get bigger. I'm not saying to ignore things, like handle it. But when we go around complaining and talking about something and that rumination, it's energetic. It gets bigger and bigger and bigger. I also, I post a question of like, I have a friend that I was telling him about this other friend that just moved in with his girlfriend. And my friend was like, oh my God, Kevin has a girlfriend? And I'm like, yeah. And she was like, unlucky in love, Kevin? And it dawned on me how Kevin would always go around saying like there were no girls in LA available. All the girls wanted his money, all this stuff. So we need to also be our own best publicists, because we're the ones that are tarnishing when you're that girl that's always talking about your issues, then everyone knows you as that girl. Yeah. So we also have to be mindful how we assassinate our own character. We're like killing everybody. We're killing Sally. We're killing ourselves. So it's not repression. Is how do we inject mindfulness so that we are intentional about what we want in life. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Now, you said you had like a fun game in the book.
Yeah, I do.
Okay, how does it work?
So this game, it's you're the first person that's going to experience this game.
Okay.
It's called To Shut the Fuck Up or To Don't Shut the Fuck Up.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to give you a few scenarios. It's almost like Games Against Humanity. So I know my answer, but I want to see what you would pick, okay?
Good.
Okay. So your best friend is finally dating someone. It's been a long time.
Okay.
You're super happy because it's been forever and you thought it was never going to happen. The week after you meet the new guy, which you really like him, you go to a party where you clearly see him drunk, putting the moves on somebody else. Do you shut the fuck up or you don't shut the fuck up?
I definitely tell my friend.
Okay.
Because she's been dating. I mean, because she's just starting to date someone. And, I wouldn't want her. I would say still have fun with him. I'm glad you're going out. But just know that he's a player because he goes out and he flirts with other people. Doesn't mean that if you look at our age, I don't have a friend who's looking to get married and have kids, So it's like if it's like a Harry Dubin type, which is this guy that screws everyone in Housewives, let her know that she still might have fun with him. But I would let her know just so that she doesn't think, just so that she's not love bombed and thinking that because obviously if this guy is like that, he's probably pretty charming. And if you are new to dating, maybe fresh from a divorce, then you might think that you're super special. And you should know that you're not probably that special, but it doesn't mean you still can't have fun with him.
Yeah, I would differ. I would shut the fuck up because I feel that, finally she's dating again, Heather. It's been a long time.
All right.
And also, you don't know what arrangement they have.
Okay.
You don't know if he told her, hey, I'm going to do my own thing. And she's like, okay with it. And then the fact that I bring it up, then it would almost like humiliate her.
That's a good point.
And make her feel like,
yeah.
And now and then all of a sudden she goes up to him and she's like, you know what, this isn't going to work because for her, maybe her ego and how she looks in front of her friends is more important than her finding a really nice guy.
A lot of people are learning about all the benefits of fasting, weight loss, but also mental, physical performance, and gut health. But worry about the whole not eating part. Well, that's exactly why Prolon was created. Prolon is a revolutionary plant-based nutrition program that nourishes the body while making cells believe they're fasting. Prolon isn't a diet. Prolon is a science based on Nobel Prize-winning discoveries in medicine. And it all starts with the Prolon's 5-day program. Snacks, soups, and beverages, all designed to keep your body in a fasting state. It's unlike anything you've ever experienced. If I was going to start a nutrition program, Prolon is exactly what I'd use. It's convenient and backed by Nobel-winning science, and it works. Right now, Prolon is offering Juicy Scoopers with Heather McDonald 15% off their 5-day nutrition program. Go to prolonlife.com/juicyscoop. That's PROLON life.com/juicyscoop for this special offer. That's prolonlife.com/juicyscoop. I've always struggled with this with married people. It's never happened to me. Mm-hmm. But it's like if you saw your friend who's married and her husband was clearly on something that was not a business meeting. What would
something definitely not on your friend. He was on something other than your friend.
What would you do? Uh-huh. And I think it changes based on the person, their situation, how close you are, where they are in a stage of life.
Yeah.
Is this happening and she's pregnant with her second child and is 33 and is, very much in love? Then maybe you go to the guy and be like, I know what the fuck you're doing. I'm not going to say anything, but you better not hurt her. But now you're going to be cut out of her life because once he knows that he's going to go to her and be like, and he's going to work on breaking up the friends. So sometimes you don't want to say anything if you know that maybe someone's husband is stepping out because most likely you're going to lose your friend for the same reasons. She's going to love you for a minute, but then if she gets back together with him, then she's humiliated because she thinks that you don't think she's a strong woman. Mm. And people do have their arrangements. And sometimes infidelity isn't the worst thing that someone could do. No. You don't know. You don't know what someone's thing is, even if you're close. Absolutely. So I think it's such a hard...
It's very subjective.
It's very hard and very subjective. And I think you have to decide on where it is. And if your friend also... is like on the verge of breaking up with him and is pissed and annoyed and all this stuff. And you're like, all right, well, then you should know that there's like another straw. Is this the, but I mean, I had a friend who had, I think, one of the worst things happen in a marriage that I've ever heard. Okay.
What happened?
I mean, I want to try to do it so people can't totally figure it out.
Yeah, you got to no names.
She called me like hysterical. And this was like 6-7 years ago. Okay. And she was someone that was confiding in a few of us about her unhappiness with the husband. Just and some suspicions of like trips and things. And she had a friend over and woke up and something happened between them. Okay. The girlfriend and him. And I was like, well, what the reason you woke up, God woke you up. Why did you wake up in the middle of the night? Now I'm like, now you have to figure out if this was going on for a long time or was this a drunken thing? Was he the only one to blame? She's saying like she didn't know what happened and but I was like, but here's your thing. You've been complaining about him. Now this is just, and she went and told like a lot. She wanted everyone to know what a horrible person he was. Well, then it went away. They worked it out. They whatever. Then continued with their life as a couple, and she clearly didn't want to, end it. And I was always very nice to him.
Good.
Whenever I saw him, because I'm like, she's just chosen to stay. And we're not like super close. But when I'd see them in a social setting, I was always like, oh, and I'd just ask him about his business or whatever. And but then at one point she was like, I can't believe that these other people didn't include us in something. And this one girl was like, well, it's because of your husband's behavior. The other husbands don't want to be around him.
Well, and that
because they don't want their wives to think that if they're friends with him, that they would do something like that.
And that's what I was saying before, like how we assassinate our character and like our partners, and all of a sudden you don't get invited, and everybody's like, oh no, after all that. But you're the one that told everybody,
right? And I even said that to her. I was like, I got to ask you, do you regret sharing it? Because I didn't spread it. My other friend didn't spread it. We thought we were going to take it to the grave, and she just went off and she wanted everyone to know in our like circle. And she said, no, I don't regret anything. I was like, okay, well, good.
Yeah. That's actually.
And she recently moved. And I said, I think that's great. Because I'm like, you're going to go and no one's going to ever know this history. I didn't say that to her, but that's what I was thinking. Yeah. And I'm like, you're moving to a great different state. It's going to be
fresh.
It's going to be, yeah.
Yeah. In the book I have, they're called the Shut the F Up Commandments, 10 Commandments. And the second one is that when you have when you have a problem, pick one trusted person to tell, and that's it. And actually to tell that person, it's like Heather. And that happened to me the other day. I had an issue with another friend and I called 3 people. No one was calling me up. One person called me and I said, it's you, right? I'm like, Heather, I'm going to tell you something I'm not going to tell anybody else. You're my one person. And it creates a bond because then you're like, all right, Jorge, give it to me. And then I let it rip and I cried and I got that shoulder and I got that empathy and then I was done. And then the other 3 people call me back and they're like, so what's up? And I'm like, you know what? I have this thing where I only tell one person and I did it, but thank you. And they're like, are you sure? And I'm like, yeah, I'm really sure. So that's like a hack.
Yeah, that is it. Also, I think even with like my one person, I have been better about being like, I'm going to see how I feel tomorrow before I share this little thing. Because I don't want to burden the one person because, it's like, I don't want to, and I don't, again, so I'm like, let me just see where we're at. And that's so many times with what I do for a living, and it was my stepdaughter who said this when she was very young, like she was like 12. And I was like annoyed, and she's with her brothers and I'm like saying, and she just goes, don't worry, Mom will be fine. In 2 weeks, this will be in her act and she won't care. And I was just like, what? And I just thought, you know what? I do have that ability. And there's times where I am like distraught, upset about something, no comedy in it at all. This could be a Lifetime movie drama scene, and sure enough, like I can find the humor, providing no one died.
Of course.
I can find the humor in a lot of frustrating fights, whatever situation with time, because that is comedy. Comedy is tragedy plus time. So you can find comedy in it. So if you wait, if you take the breath and you don't spend all that, but the
universe gives you material. Well, I do, but Heather, she's been to a couple of my comedy shows. I'm pretty good. Pretty good.
Yeah.
But I remember when I was in the thick of doing comedy, all these crazy things would happen in my life, and I was like, oh my God, this is what happens when you're a comedian. Like everything is ridiculous, and you're like, how is this right? Do you feel like your life must have all this ridiculousness?
Or like when working on projects that are more like scripted storyline stuff, all of a sudden, I'm telling something. And I'm like, well, I could work that in my act, but actually, that's a whole episode. That's, and it's really kind of fun because when you're in a creative mode, and you're using your life for content or whatever, it does piggyback on itself.
I always say this example, and I've never said it before on camera, but you think of someone like Kim Kardashian, right?
Yeah,
like Kim. God bless her. Probably her biggest dream ever was to always be the most famous person in the world or something like that, right? Do you really think like she could have architected for her stepdad to become a woman? That was only going to even create more headline news? I'm just saying, like, when you have an intention of whether it is being a great comedian or being the most famous person in the world, it's almost like the universe is going to go, all right, we're going to give you stuff. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, I think in the fact that it happened
when
that
people
way.
say, like, oh my gosh, she architects everything. I'm like, there's no way she architected for her stuff.
I think that what they are great at, and she really being like the one that catapulted the family, is they are truly nice people.
Yeah.
And and everyone says that, and I've experienced it. They're truly nice and polite. Nobody has a story about any of them being rude.
Yeah.
And they're always giving people respect.
And on time, super professional. They show up on set on time. Whenever we work with Kim,
great work ethic, and also respectful of the smaller people in the room. Not like you never hear those stories about them.
Yeah.
But also really making like I always say, Kim and Chris are the best at making the lemonade out of lemons. And, the way Kim did react to that was, pinnacle, like in the history of it, because her acceptance and then them accepting made, trans people, everything such a larger conversation and has really, and I've said that to Caitlyn Jenner. I said, Caitlyn, like you are who may, the ego, I know not everyone like loves, but I'm like, and
she opened the way for so many people.
Yeah. And then, and what she said was, she's like, this isn't the first time this happened in my life. And she said, I remember this, but she had, growing up as Bruce, had dyslexia, but people didn't know what dyslexia was. Mm-hmm. And at one point, she did an interview and it said, I'm dyslexic. And it became this thing where they're like, what is dyslexia? Kind of like how autism kind of became, we never talked about autism when I was 10. I never even heard the word. I don't think I heard the word until like my late 20s, So it's only been around for like 25 years that we've really talked about it. And so the dyslexia, but then one thing she said is that she felt that then it became such a big news story that then people were like, are you dyslexic? Maybe you're dyslexic. And it became ways to make money on dyslexic kids and all this. And think about it. Do we talk about dyslexia that much anymore? We don't. It became such a thing that like everyone was dyslexic. And so it was just sort of interesting. It's like when she was like, this is the first time that me telling something about myself has become such a in the zeitgeist conversation type of a thing. But in her case, it was good because it made people, aware and more accepting. But I think that's part of it is just seeing what comes down the way, whatever it is. And if it's something bad, trying to be like, I mean, even, with anything with them, they pretty much are good about having the blinders on about the hate. And then the opportunities they make a positive thing for themselves,
Yeah, it's an art form.
Okay, go to your next one.
Going?
Yeah, keep going.
Okay, this is actually, you gave me advice kind of like this. This was inspired by you.
Oh my God.
Okay, this is all hypothetical. Everyone's single here.
Yeah.
You're starting to date someone, right? And on the third date, you just realize that you're not into it.
Okay.
You're not into it. He's a nice guy, but he's just not for you, Heather. Not for you because Peter somewhere in another world.
Yeah, but I had lots of third dates where I was not into it. Okay.
Right. He keeps texting you and he keeps texting you though. And unfortunately, he's just not getting it. He's not getting it. Do you tell him how you feel or do you keep just letting him phase out and for him to just get it on his own? Do you shut the fuck up or don't shut?
Okay. I think this is so interesting because in my day, we did not have texting.
Mm-hmm.
So you had voicemails and stuff. So people would call and leave a voicemail.
Break up with you
and you could call them back or you could not.
Right.
And definitely back then.
All right, there's no tracking system.
It was a much easier way to ghost back then.
Yeah.
It was still a ghost. It was still, you just didn't call them back. And you try a few times.
Uh-huh.
I would too. I'd got blown off by guys. And I'd be like, wait.
One.
Yeah, no, but it'd be like, oh, wait, did he go? Was this the weekend for the Bachelor weekend? Like, why am I not hearing back? And you have it a few times, and then you're like, okay. And then I feel like with dating apps and things, I've heard from people that they do want to cut them off quick. They do want to be more definitive and be like, had a great time. Like someone would be like, well, right. I had a great time with you tonight. When can I see you again? And then my friend will be like, I'm not into it. So I just said, thank you so much for the drinks. I don't think we're a good match. And then that is like the etiquette of just not dangling, not a slow ghost. I think, with that, I think for
remember,
3 days,
you personally,
dates, I think you owe someone an explanation.
Okay.
Maybe that's harder. See, maybe it's harder with 3 dates. 3 dates, I never, ever explained to anybody. Back in the day, I totally just never called them back. And I had to wonder why someone didn't like me. Yeah. I never knew what it was. And they had to wonder too.
Yeah.
And the one time that someone was told, it was my sister. So we were dating all these guys and we lived together. Uh-huh. And she was an attorney, a DUI specialist, defense, and I was a comedian, and and she met this guy, and he was a firefighter, and they dated, and they were dating. Mm-hmm. It wasn't super serious, but it was kind of becoming like a boyfriend. And he asked her to come over one night, and he sat her down and broke up with her, but told her why. And he was like, I just am not okay with what you do for a living. Because I'm a firefighter and I'm cleaning up dead bodies from drunk drivers and you defend them.
Okay.
Well, now everyone needs a defense, and that wasn't all that she did.
Uh-huh.
But it was she came home and she's like, gosh, we always wonder why somebody doesn't want to date us anymore. And we always want to know the reasons. And she's like, I could have lived without that. She's like, I could have lived with him just blowing me off. I didn't have to drive 35 minutes to be like, hey, we're never going to date again. And so, yeah. Now I'm going back to just blow him off, and you should just, and it's best that you don't know, because if it's not going to improve your life, it's just not meant to be. And if it's something really specific, like something physical, or you just don't have enough money, or I don't find you interesting enough, or I don't like your job. If it's something that you can't then why do you need to know that? How are you helping someone?
And also even if they're giving you, so people, it's I need closure. They could be lying to you.
Yeah.
So then you're getting a fake closure.
Right.
So it's I was joking around. I was telling my friend, I was like, the new maybe he's not that into you is maybe he has a rash in his ass. Seriously, you don't know why someone's blowing you off. They could tell you hey, I'm getting back with my ex, or I'm not into it. But at the same time, it's still a fictional story.
The thing I always told people now that I'm thinking about it. Or sometimes I would break up with people
you gave me the
I would break up with someone as so wait, what did I tell you?
You told me it was so good, and I used it to break up with someone. You were like, "This is what you do."
Oh, getting back together with some
yes,
that's what it was because I felt
you told me your lesbian friend from some studio.
What you can't, because I always thought it was the perfect thing because it's a nice letdown, and it's if you're dating someone just a short while, but you've maybe gone out a few times,
and you're really
like,
funny,
and you're like, listen, I heard from my ex. And he is apologizing and really wants to give it another chance. And we were together for years, and I would be mad at myself if I didn't try to be with him one more time. So we're going to give it one more shot. And so I would do this for friends. They'd be like, can you do my voice and call and break up? And I would call as my friend. And I'd be like, hey, I don't know. It's really hard. And then I remember this one guy goes, wow, all right, lucky guy. And I hung up and I'm like, you're a fucking bitch. You should go out with him. First of all, there is no ex-boyfriend. And this guy really liked you. And then I would be like sad about the fake backstory. I was like, where is this guy coming back to say he's sorry for everything he did to me?
That should be a movie. You should have been the breakup doula. And the breakup doula trying to work her way into one of those people she let down.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, do you have another?
Yeah, I have another one. All right, this is a harmless. You go to your favorite rosé all-day brunch with your 4 besties. Okay. After the best boozy brunch you've ever had in years, you notice that the waiter comes back and he only charged for 3 brunches instead of 5.
Okay.
He made a mistake.
Okay.
Do you shut the fuck up or you don't shut the fuck up?
You shut the fuck up and give him like 40% tip. 100%.
Yeah.
He knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
Or she. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
If it's
and you got you got to let the universe, you got to receive.
Especially if it's like a big place. Now, if it was like they were struggling and they were like a mom and pop shop and they could not have been sweeter and something, then maybe if I felt like I'm kind of screwing them over, like we're the only people there all day and they forgot to charge this expensive thing and the person was a new waiter, like that would be the only thing. So that would be such a rare case. Mostly I would be thrilled that something was missing and I would just tip really well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. This is kind of funny.
Yeah.
All right. So your rich, super wealthy older friend invites you to St. Bart's in his yacht for New Year's Eve.
Can relate.
She's loving it.
Yeah.
There's a group of 4 of you, much younger girls, that were invited as well. So the 4 of you are talking outside of the bathroom where he's currently in the bathroom. Your wealthy, older, rich friend comes out of the bathroom and there's some mysterious white powder in his nose while he's talking to the 4 of you very aggressively.
Okay.
Do you shut the fuck up or you don't shut the fuck up?
Of course you shut the fuck up. You're his guest. He can do as much coke as he wants.
But you don't tell him that what I mean by that.
Oh, you go like that?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. Eventually he'll go back to the bathroom to get more and see it. And, no, only if, first of all, I've never really had that happen.
Okay, I have a story.
Where I've seen it because I've said this before since I've never even ever tried cocaine in my life. I feel like people know if you're down. Sometimes I've had people be like, I can get you some, whatever. And then when I'm like, oh, no, thank you, I'm not interested. Then the minute they register is like, you're not one to participate, they really keep that part of their life separate from you. Doesn't mean you won't be invited. You might not be invited to some things. But if they end up doing it, they're not going to be doing it in front of you because there's something that goes with it. And I don't know why, because I don't judge people for that. Well, now I judge you because there could be fentanyl in it. You could die. So that's stupid.
Yeah, this was in the 80s.
Yeah,
our
90s
situation.
Whatever. But I do feel that for some reason, like people I know that were in my circle that loved cocaine, that I was on trips with, that I can honestly say I never saw them do it.
But listen, this could be also food in your teeth. Like
right. Food in your teeth, yes. And it's always so embarrassing. But yes, I do tell someone and I do appreciate when someone tells me. So I think if I saw that and I knew somebody, I think maybe I would, not in his case, because he's the man, he's paying for everything, who cares? But if it was like a friend and it was a party or something and it was really obvious, I'd be like,
but you know what?
And I'd like wink at him just because I wouldn't want them to then be embarrassed. Yeah.
Well, that actually happened to me years ago.
Yeah.
When I was,
Having fun.
Years ago. And I was on a boat. It was my friend's boat, and he was talking to our other friend. It was only like four of us.
Yeah.
And I was on the other side of the boat, and they were talking. So for a while.
Yeah.
And for a while they were talking, I came to them, and I'm like, hey. And then I see my friend that has, a substance, and I go, hey, you have something right there. All of a sudden, he turns to my other friend and he goes, how can you not tell me? We've been talking for the last 30 minutes. What kind of a friend does that to me? And my friend was like, So, yeah, it could backfire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that was.
Okay, let's do one more.
One more.
These are like a different would you rathers, but you better. Yeah.
Okay. So you go meet your best friends in South America for New Year's, and you're single, so you end up on a date, and you meet a really amazing guy, and the chemistry is on point. Okay, wink, wink. But on the third day, you have a little cold sore outbreak. Okay, and on your lip, and now it's very small, so it could pass for a pimple, but also you're probably never gonna see this person again. Do you shut the fuck up or you don't shut the fuck up?
Okay, so I have herpes and I'm having an outbreak.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get the herpes from him.
No, not necessarily, because you get it once in a while, or like every 4 years or whatever.
Back in the day, I had a couple close friends that had herpes.
Yeah,
and it feels like there was like so many herpes commercials back in the day. Again. A dyslexic person with herpes was everywhere 20 years ago. Where are they? Anyway, so, and they both of them were attorneys.
Okay.
And female attorneys.
Okay.
And they felt they had to tell every single person that they had it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, but wait a minute. Like, if you haven't had an outbreak for 6 years and whatever, why are you putting someone in this position to have to decide to get with you or not or whatever? And one of the person that disclosed it before sex, like you're supposed to, like she's going to be disbarred or whatever. And the guy was so into her, and he went to his brother, who was a doctor, and like asked about it, and was like, the guy was like, you'll be fine, unless she's having an outbreak, you're going to be fine. They have been married forever, have kids. He's never, ever gotten it.
Well, first, it's not just sex. Like, people have the, it stress builds it, like, triggers it. It's not necessarily a
but
sexually
there's been
transmitted.
like lawsuits about, obviously about like AIDS and stuff, but like there's things like that, which, you can like, I get why people are like, when they get it. And at the time it was like, oh my God. And it was so shameful and like, oh, it came from this and who must have given it to me and all of that. I feel like hopefully in today's world of dating, of STDs and stuff, we have medicine that it's not as big of a deal as it was like 25 years ago. But I would say wear a condom and don't tell anybody that you have it.
Right. Well, in the example, it means on the lip. So you get it on the lip, and it could pass for a pimple, but you know that it's a cold sore. Would you tell the person, hey, like, I really like you, but this thing just came up? And
I think I would not engage with him anymore because I wouldn't want to give it to him if I had something like that.
That's what
But I'm saying if it was dormant and I'm dating somebody and I really like them and we're about, that's what I'm saying.
Oh,
but
okay.
these girls were telling everybody.
Oh, wow.
And for one, it was fine because she told the right person.
Yeah.
And they stayed married. For the other one, she's still single today.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's the reason.
Yeah.
Because she's got other issues. But I do think that's kind of like an interesting thing. And I kind of wonder for the dating people, what is that today? Because I don't know. I haven't been single in so long. What is it when you have something? Are you supposed to tell somebody?
No, if something's dormant, why would you say? First of all, cold sore can be triggered. It's stress triggered, right? It's not necessarily that you engaged in some sort of making out or something, then you got it. So I don't think if something's dormant, I don't think it needs to be disclosed. Now, if it's there, I think I think you have a human duty, citizen duty to tell the person, hey, I'm having an outbreak. This isn't a pimple. Just I want to be responsible.
So your book is doing great.
Yes.
It's only $18.99. And
it's an Amazon #1 bestseller right now.
That is so awesome.
Thank you.
And you said it's doing really well, and maybe because the title is so like catchy.
Yeah.
And
I've kind of, it's the cliff notes of so many years of really studying just the human experience and how we can be not just more effective, but just more compassionate with ourselves and others. It really is. You start loving and accepting people more and really injecting empathy. And we live in I bring up a lot of questions about just human dynamic. For example, like let's say you and I are coworkers and we have a boss and we're always saying what a nightmare he is. Like if you knew that talking about him and describing him as a nightmare keeps him being that way, you keep experiencing him as a nightmare, would you still do it? To get those 20 minutes of banter, is it worth those hours of you suffering because this guy or this woman is a nightmare to you? So it's like the way that we describe.
Yeah, I definitely also think but also in an office thing, that is where one bad apple can rot the rest.
Right.
And that's why when someone is clearly unhappy, and then you're like, and then they fired me, and they're like, well, what happened? Well, they brought me in, and they were like, you're not happy, and they're like, yeah, I am, and you're like, and it's because they know that like if you're miserable and you're pointing out all the things that are wrong with the job, then you go to coffee with another person from the office and you can be like black mold, And so that's the other thing. Like, know that if you're not happy at a job, but you're not ready to leave, these people that are working with you are not your friends. They are not like, I know it's fun to go get coffee and commiserate and bag on this person, but eventually you're going to be gone, whether you leave or you get fired. And these people that are you're not going to hang out with them in 2 weeks. Yeah. You're just not. I mean, maybe you'll stay friends on social media, but the relationship was strong because you saw them every day. I saw the funniest thing that this guy put on TikTok. He's like, there's no two people more in love or something than two people that you work with that are both married to other people that are flirting. Like the relationship, like it can work both ways. You can, two people that one person hates the job can make the other one hate the job too. Yeah. And then two people that are not in great marriages but are together every day at a job. That's the most common affair, and then they get married and then they realize like, oh, it was just fun because we were flirting and
we were being bad.
But again, it's that connecting and like feeding, like fueling the fire.
Yeah.
Well,
adding to it. What if we can retrain what relatedness and connection is? If like instead of commiserating over like gossiping or whatever, like what if you could actually, and those are the hacks that I have. Like if somebody's saying something, you could literally just be like, I hear you. Like just don't add to those conversations, because that's where those conversations, they come and bite you back in the ass.
Right.
And people don't even have to know. Like, you could have a group, you could walk into a situation where everybody's bad-mouthing somebody. You could just go, wow, I hear you. And they'll think you're jumping in, but you know that you're not. And that's what makes all the difference.
Yeah.
So it's like, so I give you like all these different hacks that you could do. Like if you're going to talk about a friend, just don't say their name. Like just get it, it's a little hack. Like be like, oh, so I have this friend. Just by you not saying their name, you're saving your integrity about it. And you can still be funny and tell great stories and crack up the whole room, but it just has a different tonality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell everybody where they can follow you and buy the book.
Yeah, so you can follow me at Jorge Perez Jr. on Instagram. My website is stfumethod.com. Under Amazon is the Shut the Fuck Up Method. And let me know what you think. I'm really excited about this. I think it's going to really do a lot of healing, and thank you for having me. You're the best.
Thank you. A lot of people are learning about all the benefits of fasting, but worry about the whole not eating part. Well, that's exactly why Prolon was created. Prolon is a revolutionary plant-based nutrition program that nourishes the body while making cells believe they're fasting. Right now, Prolon is offering Juicy Scoopers with Heather McDonald 15% off their 5-day nutrition program. Go to prolonlife.com/juicyscoop. That's PROLON life.com/juicyscoop for this special offer.